Picture this. In exactly 43 blistering seconds, studio lights are about to transform a polished TV set into a public execution stage. A congresswoman sits with a secret that could destroy a man's legacy. And somewhere in the shadows, his own daughter watches, knowing the truth is finally about to surface after 19 years of silence. What you're about to hear is the story of the night Jasmine Crockett walked into that studio with more than policy papers. She carried a recording that would shatter the carefully constructed image of Donald Trump. But here's what nobody expected. The most devastating blow wouldn't come from that tape. It would come from the one person Trump never saw coming. The red tally light blinks to life above camera one, and suddenly the world is in the room. Studio lights burn white hot, catching every shadow, every twitch. Anderson Cooper introduces the night's guests, and millions are already watching. But inside that studio, it feels like the air itself has stopped moving. Jasmine sits with her back straight, the polished desk between her and Trump like a line drawn in steel. Her hands rest loosely in her lap, but under the table, one finger brushes the edge of a manila envelope. Inside her purse is a USB drive labeled in unmistakable handwriting. Tiffany, 2004 dinner. Can you believe this? The invitation to this debate had arrived only hours earlier. No time for strategy calls, no rehearsals. But Jasmine doesn't need a script. She needs precision, and she has it. That tape is her precision strike, waiting for the right moment to land. Across from her, Trump adjusts his tie, wearing that same fixed smile he's worn for decades. The cameras love him. But up close, Jasmine can see the tightness in his jaw, the way his eyes flicker when Anderson's first question lands. She's not going to rush. She's waiting for that perfect second that will flip the balance in her favor. The first exchange is polite, almost too polite. They spar over policy, each answer short and sharp. But Jasmine is already steering the conversation closer to the edge where politics will give way to something far more personal. The audience leans forward, not yet knowing why they feel the tension building, only that it's there. Trump speaks about his children, listing their accomplishments with salesman's pride. Jasmine's lips twitch into something between a smile and a warning. She knows the sentence buried in her purse could change the way millions see that list forever. Anderson turns to her for a response. She can feel the heat of the lights, the silence pressing against her. Not yet. She's not going to fire the shot while his guard is still high. She needs him comfortable, confident, sure that he owns the room. She leans forward, elbows resting lightly on the desk. Leadership, she says, starts at home. Her tone is steady, but her eyes don't leave his. Somewhere deep in his expression, she sees a flicker. Small, but there. The kind of flicker you only get when a man knows there's a part of his past he can't explain away. Little did anyone know, backstage, a slim figure had slipped in from a side door. Head slightly bowed, the overhead light catches her hair for half a second. Unmistakable. Tiffany Trump. She moves quickly, avoiding the main pathways. Her eyes never wander toward her father's side of the backstage. If she notices Jasmine, she gives no sign. But Jasmine notices her. That's enough. The connection doesn't need words. It's a shared understanding in a single glance. Fragile. Loaded. Jasmine's hand brushes the side of her purse, feeling the hard outline of a USB drive. It feels heavier now. But wait until you hear what happens when the conversation shifts to family values. Because what Trump doesn't know is that Jasmine isn't just armed with a recording. She's armed with a witness. The waiter from that night 20 years ago, he's in the building, and he's ready to talk. Trump leans forward, gripping the edge of the desk. Congresswoman, your economic plan sounds good for headlines, he says, stretching each word for effect. But in reality, it would drain the Treasury in a year. Where exactly is this money coming from? Jasmine's eyes don't flinch. From the same place you found billions for corporate tax cuts. She fires off numbers, budget reports, bipartisan studies in rapid, precise rhythm. Each fact lands clean, slicing through a statement like a blade through paper. The murmur in the audience grows sharper. Trump forces a smile, but there's the faintest flicker in his gaze, a microsecond of recalculating. This is where it gets crazy. Anderson Cooper senses a shift and asks about leadership ethics. Jasmine feels the moment before the words are fully out. This is the road to where she needs to go. "Let me ask you something, Mr. Trump," she says, her eyes holding his across the table. "Does leadership begin at home?" The question falls into the room like a stone into still water. Trump's smile returns instantly, but it feels tighter. "Of course," he says, glancing at the audience. "My kids are proof of that." He expects applause. None comes. The pause is so brief it could be missed, but it's there. The split-second steel in his eyes. The imperceptible stiffening of his hands. And then Jasmine does something nobody saw coming. She leans into microphone, her voice smooth but deliberate. "We can talk about roads and bridges, but what about the foundation of leadership itself?" The studio shifts. A few audience members straighten in their seats. Leadership isn't just about numbers on a chart. It's about the people closest to you. It's about whether you treat them with the same respect you demand from a nation. Trump shifts in his chair, his fingers tap once against the desk. "I've been nothing but supportive of my family," he says, the sentence coming faster than the ones before. It's the first real sign that her line of attack is cutting closer than he likes. But here's what will blow your mind. Jasmine doesn't let him off the hook. "Mr. Trump, you've built a public image around family values. I think the public deserves to know if those values hold up in private." Trump's chin lifts a fraction. "They do," he says, the words clipped. His jaw tightens, and his eyes flick briefly toward the audience before snapping back to her. And that's when Jasmine drops the bombshell that changes everything. "Let's hear your own words, Mr. Trump." The sentence lands in the studio like the click of a safety coming off. Trump's smirk doesn't vanish, but it freezes. His head tilts just slightly, as if he hadn't heard her right. A soft hum fills the speakers. The ambient clatter of a crowded restaurant. Silverware on plates, a waiter's distant laugh. Then comes the voice. Low, unmistakable. She's not really part of the family. It wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. The casual tone makes it worse, the way you might brush someone aside without a second thought. The audience gasps as one. Not loud, but sharp. The sound of 100 people exhaling at the same moment. A woman in the third row puts her hand over her mouth. Someone else mutters, "Oh my God!" But you won't believe what happens next, because in the shadows behind the cameras, Tiffany's lips press together until the color drains from them. Her teeth catch her lower lip, holding it like a dam against something breaking through. She doesn't look at her father. She looks down. Trump's eyes flicker first at the crowd, then back to Jasmine. His jaw tightens. "That's not," he starts. But the clip keeps playing, the audio cutting through him like a wire. When the restaurant noise fades, leaving only the echo of that sentence in the air, the silence that follows is louder than the recording itself. "That's fake," Trump says, forcing a laugh that doesn't reach his eyes. "You can make anything with technology these days." Jasmine doesn't look away. "If this isn't your voice, then whose is it?" Her tone is calm, almost curious, but the question is a blade. And here's where the story takes another incredible turn. Because, remember that waiter I mentioned? The one who was there that night 20 years ago? He steps into the light, blinking once against the glare. His suit is plain, his tie slightly askew, the look of someone in used cameras. Anderson introduces him only as a former waiter from the restaurant where the recording was made. "I remember that night," he begins, voice low but steady. "It was a private dinner in the back room. Mr. Trump arrived late, about 20 minutes after his party had been seated." His eyes shift briefly toward where Tiffany sits in the shadows. She was already there. Jasmine leans forward. "And how was she when he arrived?" The man's shoulders rise and fall with a slow breath. "Happy." She lit up the second she saw him, like a kid who'd been waiting all day for her dad to walk through the door. The audience is still focused, narrowing in on his words. She stood up, took a step toward him. But he didn't stop. He walked right past her, went straight to the man sitting at the head of the table. Trump shifts in his seat, crossing his arms. The man keeps going. He said something to that man, the same words I heard on the recording just now. "She's not really part of the family." Gasps rise again from the crowd. The waiter's voice wavers just for a moment. I froze. I remember because I'd never seen a kid's face change like that. From smiling to nothing, like the air got pulled out of her. This is the moment that will haunt you, because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about family, loyalty, and the cost of speaking truth. Trump leans toward the mic, voice sharp. This man's lying, probably paid by her. He jabs a finger toward Jasmine. The witness doesn't flinch. No one's paid me. I heard those words 20 years ago, and people deserve to know. You expect anyone to believe you remember a random dinner in 2004? Trump shoots back. This is a setup. The witness leans in. Then test me. Polygraph right now on this stage. The audience breaks into claps and shouts of "do it." For a man who always had a line ready, Trump pauses. His mouth opens, then closes. The silence is deafening. But wait until you see what Tiffany does next. Because after 20 years of silence, she's about to do something that will change everything. From the shadows at stage right, there's movement. It's small at first, the uncrossing of arms, the shift of weight, then a step forward, then another. Her heels click softly against the polished floor, a sound the mics almost catch. The audience begins to notice, a ripple of heads turning toward the far wing. Trump catches it late. When he does, his body stiffens, a subtle flinch he tries to mask by leaning back in his chair. Tiffany's pace is measured, unhurried. She isn't rushing to the stage. She's claiming it step by step. The studio lights edge across her face, revealing a calm that's almost disarming. She doesn't look at her father. She doesn't look at Jasmine. Her eyes stay forward on the space between them. Anderson's voice breaks in, gentle but curious. "Ms. Trump, would you like to join us?" A chair appears between Jasmine and Trump. Tiffany sits down without hesitation. The air in the room tightens. The cameras catch the subtle set of her jaw, the stillness in her shoulders. Every movement feels intentional, like she decided long before this moment what she would do. Jasmine turns toward her, voice calm but carrying. "Do you want to speak?" The question isn't loaded. It's an open door, one Tiffany can walk through or leave closed. Tiffany's eyes meet Jasmine's for the first time. "I've lived with this for years," she says, her tone steady but low. Not shaky, not angry, just certain, the kind of certainty that comes from carrying something too long. There are moments that don't leave you, no matter how much you want them to. Her words land with the weight of something that had been waiting to surface. She glances at her father just for a second. "You probably don't even remember that night, but I do. Every detail, every word." The sentence hangs between them, heavy and impossible to ignore. Trump opens his mouth, but Anderson raises a hand, subtly signaling him to wait. This is her moment, and I've stayed silent, thinking it was better for family, thinking it was better for everyone. But all it did was teach me how to disappear in plain sight. No one moves. No one speaks. The cameras capture the quiet devastation of a daughter who had spent years in the shadows, waiting for recognition that never came. Trump leans toward the mic, voice lower now, almost soft. "We've had misunderstandings." The words feel rehearsed, like something polished for damage control. Tiffany's eyes don't leave his face. She lets him finish, doesn't rush. Then, with a voice that carries further than she intended, she says, "You chose your image over me." The audience reacts like they've been struck. A collective gasp ripples through the room. Trump blinks, trying to recover, but the cameras catch the flicker, that split-second break in the armor. "You were my father," she says, voice calm. "But you were more worried about being Donald Trump." Each word lands like a gavel. Trump tries again. "That's not fair." But Tiffany cuts in, not with volume, but with precision. "Fair? Do you know what it's like to watch your father pretend you don't exist? To hear him laugh with friends about the daughter who doesn't fit the brand?" The silence after that is jagged, almost hostile. Even the air seems reluctant to move. And then comes a moment that breaks the internet. Tiffany looks directly at Jasmine and says, "Thank you, Jasmine, for letting me be heard." The words don't shout. They don't have to. They land like a verdict, sealing something Trump can no longer control. Jasmine's voice is low, even. "Mr. Trump, Do you have anything you'd like to say to your daughter? It isn't a question for policy or the public. It's a question for him, the man, not the politician. The pause is brutal. Tiffany turns to him, the smallest flicker of hope in her expression, but the silence drags on until that hope dims again. Trump finally looks at her, then away. No words come. And in that moment, with millions watching, the question burns through the air like a flare. Has the most powerful man in the room finally been defeated by the truth? Jasmine leans into microphone, her voice calm but edged with steel. Truth matters. Family matters. And leadership isn't tested on a stage. It's tested in the moments when no one is watching. She pauses, letting the silence sharpen the impact. What kind of leader denies his own blood? The question doesn't hang in the air. It cracks through it, leaving an ache that even the audience can feel. If a man can't honor the simplest bond we're given, family, how can he honor a promise to a nation? Trump's stillness is telling. Tiffany sits just feet away, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles whiten, her eyes never leaving her father's face. Finally, Jasmine turns to the camera. We all have moments that define us. This is his. It isn't shouted. It isn't dramatic. It's a verdict delivered in plain, unshakable language. A statement that doesn't need proof because the proof is sitting in the chair beside her. The moment the broadcast ends, the world erupts. Cable news anchors cut into regular programming, voices urgent, replaying Jasmine's closing words on a loop. Hashtags spread like wildfire, blood before politics, stand with Tiffany. But here's what really gets me about this story. It's not just about politics or family drama. It's about something deeper. It's about the moments when we have to choose between safe silence and risky truth, between protecting comfort and protecting what's right. In life, truth often has to pass through layers of doubt and struggle before it's recognized. It fights its way through fear, misunderstanding, and the walls we build to protect what we think we can't afford to lose. But when we stand firm and speak it out, truth becomes a force, not just a statement. Family or any relationship only truly exists when love and trust don't need proof to be real. When words are believed without question, when promises are kept without reminder, when presence is enough without performance. Without that, all that's left is a performance for the world to see, without a heart. So I want to ask you something. If one day you had to choose between safe silence and risky truth, between protecting comfort and protecting what's right, which would you choose? Would you keep the peace and live with the weight of what you know? Or would you risk the storm to let the truth breathe? Because in the end, the measure of family and of ourselves isn't written in the moments we're comfortable. It's written in the moments we're tested, when the cost of honesty feels too high, and we speak anyway. What moment from this story hit you the hardest? Drop a comment and let me know. And if this story moved you, don't just scroll past. Like, share, and subscribe, because the next story might not only reveal the truth, it might hold up a mirror to all of us.